Jai Hind. Professor Dr. Ruby Gupta is an educationist, academician, author, and journalist honored at the International Agatha Christie Festival in England. She is the author of 9 books, a double gold medalist in English literature, and awardee of the GSE for USA by Rotary International, bestowed with the Pratibha Samman Award for Journalism and selected as top 50 writers of India and the recipient of the Nation Builder Award. She has worked as the regional correspondent for Mirror Today magazine, feature writer for the Tribune and MP Chronicle, and columnist for the Free Press Journal. An avid traveler and adventure lover, she has explored over 25 countries, and currently she is working as professor and HOD at the Indian Military Academy. It's great connecting with her and knowing her, and there's so much to learn from her. So, Dr. Ruby Gupta, tell me one thing. You are juggling so many things. I mean, writing books by itself is a time taking process. And in that, also, you have IMA to take care of as a professor. How do you manage your time in all of this?
Well, actually, the thing is that I have reached here after decades of work. It's not that suddenly I'm juggling things, right?
Okay.
So I have been writing and teaching for over 31 years now. And my first book was published way back in 1997. 1996 actually, to be precise. So you can imagine the trajectory that has gone into it. And that's why it has taken me so long. And in this time period, I've published 9 books. So it takes me several years to write one book, precisely because of the fact that I'm doing so many things at the same time. So sometimes I'm devoted only to preparing my lectures, then I don't write. If I'm writing, then I write in the night. And then, of course, during the day, I'm taking care of the home. Yeah. So it's like that. I have to compartmentalize things in my physical world as well as in my mental world.
Correct. That's why this question, that yes, so experience counts, you want to say.
Yes,
absolutely
yes.
right. And besides that, I also want to know, how did you land up into the world of academia? Was it from your childhood, like वो blackboard लेके या class में imaginary बच्चों को पढ़ाना or something like that? Or where did you do your schooling and everything, if you can talk about it?
No, actually, I never ever thought I'll be into academics or teaching. Never. That was it never occurred to me,
Okay.
right? And when I was a school student, my father was in the army. So wherever we were posted, I did my schooling all over the country, wherever we were posted, like Delhi, Pune, Bareilly, and things like that. And then I actually wanted to become a genetic scientist, genetic engineer. And I did my BSc, MSc with the intention of doing research. But it so happened that my mother was very interested that I become a professor. She felt that a professor's life is very cool and very comfortable for a lady. A lady can manage many things whilst being a professor. But somehow I never thought of being a professor, and then I switched to journalism. I was a journalist for about 5 years. I was a freelance journalist, and I was also the regional correspondent for Mirror Today magazine. And in fact, I have interviewed Narendra Modi ji.
Okay.
And Narendra Modi ji at that time was the General Secretary of BJP, and I interviewed him also. But then as a journalist, you cannot have regular hours. You have to keep changing your timing according to the dictates and demands of what is happening in the world.
Correct.
So I needed a more stable life, and so I switched to academics, did my PhD and got into academics.
Wonderful.
So I do not have a straight path to where I am today, rather it was a convoluted path, and I'm very happy I took this path because it gave me a vision which is holistic, which is all-rounded.
True. So this genetic bend of the scientist bend of mine is the reason that you end up writing some books on technical communication, if I may ask you that. Is it digital communication or I mean in humanities, how did you bring it together?
You're right, I do have a scientific bent of mind. And when I got into academics, I had a great desire to help my students. So I was teaching at this engineering-centric university, And in engineering centric universities, what happens is that the students have to give many papers. Within every 6 months, they have new subjects.
Right.
And so many papers and so many subjects, so it's very difficult for them to consult so many books in order to prepare for their exams. So I thought, why not write a simple book wherein within one book, they pick up one book and they get content which is equivalent to many books. So in order to help my students, I wrote basic technical communication for engineering students and MBA students. That is communication for technocrats and for MBA students. And then I wrote advanced technical communication, which is an advanced form of technical communication for technocrats and for MBA graduates and administrators. So it was solely inspired by the desire to help my students.
Wonderful.
And then it was published by Cambridge University Press. So that was a achievement I
a feather in
considered.
the cap, I must say, for sure. And I think there are many, many accolades that you have with you. And Agatha Christie Award being one of the highlights, I find. And Agatha Christie must have been your favorite while you were in your young age reading books, probably, that it has impacted so much. And tell me more about it. How
Okay,
did it
so
all happen?
so my father was posted in R&R in Delhi.
Okay.
And I was studying in Loreto Convent.
Okay.
And prior to that, I was in Bareilly, in St. Mary's Convent. And from Bareilly, I came to Delhi. And in Delhi, Loreto Convent, there were all these snooty girls. And I was coming from a kind of a small town. So I became a kind of a lonely child or lonely girl. You know, it was class 6 that we were posted there. And initially, what happens is generally in every school, there are groups, cliques already there.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to penetrate into that group and make new friends. So every 3 years, I had to do that. So I found that my best friends were in the library in the form of books. And I started reading, and I picked up my first Agatha Christie book in the library of Loreto Convent.
Okay.
And it was called And Then There Were None. And it was love at first read for me. I was hooked from the first page.
Okay.
And I couldn't just let it go. And then I read all the books of Agatha Christie. And the wonderful thing about her books is that she creates a puzzle. And she draws you in, and you cannot rest till you solve the puzzle. And it so happened every time I used to think, oh, I'm intelligent, now I'll guess who has committed the murder. And every time she was one up on me. So that got me hooked. I said, okay, this time I'll guess whoever is the least suspicious person. He has to be the murderer. But then again, she would pull a surprise. So that is the reason I was totally in love with Agatha Christie. And she was my idol. And when I decided to become a writer, it happened very organically over the years. And I thought I should do something which I love. So what did I love? I loved reading. What did I love reading? Mysteries. And so it took me into a world which was so exciting. And I thought, can I also create a world which is so exciting and a reader gets lost? And then it's a kind of a tussle between the reader and me, whether he can guess or I keep him guessing. So that's what motivated me to write these mysteries.
My God. But wonderful. And I don't know, I don't think in India we have many writers who follow this kind of a genre.
True,
Wherein
true.
They are talking about such a mystery and crime and stuff. How do you work in your head over this? I want to know.
Well,
I mean, your imagination seems to be running really far away, and bringing it on paper, how does that happen?
actually, I have a very scientific mind and
Right.
logical mind, analytical as well. So I do everything in a very analytical manner, in a very systematic manner. I hear interviews of writers who say, oh, they just start writing and they go on writing. I don't do like that. I have a proper system. First, I think of the plot. Then I think of the characters who are going to bring my plot to life. And then I have these spiral notebooks. And I'll tell you an interesting thing. When I went to the home of Agatha Christie, I found that she also used to have these spiral notebooks. And she used to jot down notes and building up of the plot and the characters. And at the back of the notebooks, she used to write the grocery list. Because you have to run your home. And I thought, okay, even I do the same thing.
Oh my God.
So I have these thin spiral notebooks which I carry with me to my workplace as well. and I work it out in a very systematic way. Chapter 1, this is going to happen. Chapter 2, chapter 3. Then I write down characters 1, 2, 3. Then I write down red herrings 1, 2, 3. Then people who are murdered 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Clues 1, 2, 3, like that. And then I start fleshing it out. So it's a very logical way of doing it. And I know precisely what is going to happen in the end and how it will happen. Sometimes in between I do get lost a bit.
Okay.
Then I kill off another guy in between to get the story moving. So that's how I do it.
So, I mean, this is so interesting. But has it ever happened with you, Doctor, that you have thought of something in your mind about the plot and the end is going to be this, but suddenly there's a change while you're writing and your entire thing is shifted from the person who was supposed to be killed to the person who is actually killed? Does it happen like that ever?
No, it has never happened till now. I pretty much stick to it because I'm very clear about the trajectory of my plot.
Okay.
And I'm very clear about the climax, that if the murder has happened, why? And I write complex murder mysteries. I don't like write simple murder mysteries that there is jealousy and so the person kills and
Yes.
there is a robbery, nothing like that. Generally my plots have got a geopolitical aspect.
Okay.
Like my first murder mystery, it has a geopolitical angle to it. And strangely enough, I wrote the novel and the climax involved IMA. And that time I was working in DIT University. And I never in a million years thought that I would end up as a professor in IMA. Talk about manifestation. Can you imagine? I was thinking IMA, this happens, that happens, and then one day, lo and behold, I become a professor in IMA. So
are you writing your future by any chance?
I wish I could be so confident, but we have to leave some things to the Almighty. It just so happened at that time the Almighty and my, vibration aligned, and there was
Yeah.
resonance that this happened. So generally, I have a very clear idea of where I'm headed, why a murder is happening, what is the plot due to which all the things are happening.
Wonderful. Doctor, don't you feel that the days that we were in school and we had our library periods and we used to read so many books, these days things have changed, and the way you got introduced to Agatha Christie, I don't know how much children are reading books these days. So how do you bring your readers to your book? How does that happen?
That is $1 million question. It is very, very difficult to get children to read or even young adults to read. And I don't blame them because there are so many more interesting things which
Correct.
grab their attention. In our times, there was no TV. TV also came when we were in class 12 or something like that. And that too black and white television, and there were no phones. So the only thing we had was books. And therefore we immersed ourselves in books and storybooks, and it built a beautiful, colorful world for us. But today, you have the colorful world in your pocket, in your hand, and you have so many interesting things. So where is the time for them to read? And reading takes effort because you need to have a certain knowledge of the English language or whatever language you're reading, vocabulary. Then it makes you think and you have to devote time to it. Whereas you have reels of 30 seconds, and so we are competing with that. So it is very difficult, but there are readers. Certainly there are readers, but the percentage of readers is falling. So bringing them to reading is very, very difficult. I think programs like this, what you are doing, or when I go and speak, whenever I go to a university or college and I speak, then students get interested. When I tell them, oh, this happens, that happens, so they want to read how it happened, and then they get interested in writing themselves. So it does happen, but the percentage is not very large.
Correct. And picking up from there, because you are saying that you interact, so how do you motivate amateurs into writing? Like these days we find a lot of people writing on social media and they keep posting stuff. But a serious writing and writing a book or maybe creating a comic is not very common these days, or it is common in a way wherein everyone is saying that they are a writer, but that impact is not happening. So what would you suggest to people?
Well, unfortunately, we are living in the 2-minute Maggie and instant coffee times. And everybody wants quick results. And students, they think, oh, we'll just pick up the pen and start writing and we'll write a story. Maybe that happens, but only with 0.1% of the population. If you want to write, you have to read. There's no getting away from it.
Correct.
And I tell my students or the people who are interested that, listen, you have to read. You have to read now, read with the focus. Whatever genre you want to write in. Supposing you want to write romance, read books on romance. You want to write books which are based on mystery, read mystery. You have to have a base in your brain. You know, it is said that you must devote at least 10,000 hours in practicing a particular field. Then you gain a proficiency, and then whatever you create is of solid benefit to society at large. So if you want to create that kind of an impact, you have to put in hard work.
Correct.
And long hours. Otherwise, people are writing fluff. And, you know, strangely enough, the world that we live in, fluff is what is appreciated.
Correct. Correct.
So what to do? So I cannot say anything. People can write anything and they get popular. And, you know, the writing is not of very good quality. The theme is not very good. But I guess people like that. So what do I say?
But that focus, that shift has to come, you know.
Yeah. But whether that fluff will last for decades, we don't know. I mean,
Correct.
it's been more than 100 years since Agatha Christie went, and look at the situation today. So
Correct.
will these books stand the test of time? Will they turn into classics? Look at Tagore. He's still valid today.
Yes.
So if we talk about books or writings which will stand the test of time, they need hard work and long hours. There's no getting away from it. No, there are no shortcuts.
Very true. No shortcuts. That is the thing that we all need to remember, I think. And Doctor, your work has been adapted to screen versions as well. Can you tell us more about it?
No, actually, I have just signed a contract for the screen adaptation.
Okay.
But these things take a lot of time. You know, there are a lot of things involved. So, Almighty Motion Picture, they have taken up my latest espionage thriller. It's a spy thriller.
Okay.
And based on geopolitical, it's got RAW in it, CIA, PLA of China. So the entire this Southeast Asia and USA, everything is involved in that particular novel. It's a complex novel and it's my magnum opus, and I think it's my best work till date. And that is, let's see when it happens, when it gets actually adapted, although I have signed the contract for its
Wonderful.
adaptation.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And congratulations on so many awards. And I want you to talk about the Agatha Christie Award. How did it go? How did it happen? And how was the feel when you went for it?
So that's a very interesting story. And in today's world, everything happens through networking. Unfortunately, I live in the back of Beyond in Dehradun, in a small corner on in the interiors of Rajpur Road, and I work in IMA in a small place. So I don't know anybody in Delhi, Mumbai, leave alone England. So I'm just sitting in my corner writing my books, hoping people are going to read it and like it. Right? So that's my story. So I wrote this novel, No Illusions in Xanadu, which was published by Bloomsbury. Bloomsbury is a very big publisher, as we know. And so I had written it, it was well received, people liked the story, etc., etc. And one day I get a mail from my publisher in Delhi, that's Bloomsbury, that the director of the Agatha Christie Festival wants to, Tony Medwer, he wants to contact you, so can we give him your email ID? I was like, okay, and they wrote that he wants to invite you for the International Agatha Christie Festival. So initially I thought it's a hoax.
Okay.
But then I said, okay, you give my email ID. After checking, I checked on Google and I went and I thought, okay, it is some, I didn't even know that there's something like the International Agatha Christie Festival, which is organized every year on her birthday, on the birthday of Agatha Christie, which is 15th of September. So one full week they devote to celebrating her life and works. And I thought I saw it as a bona fide thing. Then Tony Medwer got in touch with me and he connected with me. He wrote and he said, would you be interested?
Wonderful.
I was like, of course.
Make your pooch.
Right. So then he said, okay, let's get on a Zoom call. So we got on a Zoom call and he held up my book No Illusions in Xanadu, and he said this is exactly the cozy murder mystery. Agatha Christie used to write a kind of a cozy murder mystery, like a closed room mystery, that there is a environment which is closed and a murder happens, so only those people who are inside that environment will be one of them will be a murderer.
Correct.
So I wrote those kind of books, right? So he said, therefore we want to call you and we want to honor you as the international writer in residence over there. And they said, we'll make you stay in the Grand Hotel where Agatha Christie spent her honeymoon, and and you will give a talk and this that.
You're giving me goosebumps?
I was blown away. I was like, imagine I got an email, and I mean, how does this happen? I didn't even know about it. I said, yeah, and all. And you know what happened? Boom, COVID.
Oh.
COVID happened. Can you imagine? And and then the flights stopped. Everything stopped. I was like, God, what are you doing? And I was down in the dumps. I said, my goodness, this happened and now nothing and this and that. So I went on with my normal life, taking online classes. Even in IMA, we took online classes and all. And this happened, and after a year, there was a new director of the festival, Heather. So I got an email from Heather that Tony has told me about you. So would you still be willing? And can we get on a Zoom call? I was like, of course. And here I would also like to point out one fallacy which is there amongst the male population and the female population also, that women generally do not promote other women and things like that. Here we have a director of festival who is a lady. She is promoting me, another lady. So this is a fallacy that women don't promote other women. We should nip this in the bud. We must have a sisterhood of women. I feel very strongly about this. And we should just stop this kind of thought process and talks which are there in the general populace. Women have to be women's best friends, I feel. Because we live the same life. We go through the same experiences, give or take a few differences. So anyway, Heather and me, we got on a Zoom call, and she held up my book and she said, oh, it was good fun reading it. I was thinking, is she talking about me? So anyway, and then she said, yeah, we'll do this and that and all. And then what happened? They had applied to the British Council for funding. For some reason, Ukraine war happened, right?
Yeah.
So the prices of aircraft fuel went up and this and that and all. Na? So they couldn't get that much of funding. So I, like we Indians are, I said that, okay, never mind. What I'll do is from Dehradun to Delhi, I'll come on my own. You do the Delhi and Heathrow flight tickets. They're so classy people. And they said, no, if we are calling you, we are going to pay for everything. Don't worry, I'll try for some other means of getting the funding. And she came through. She got me the full funding, direct flight tickets, this, that and everything. And it was the best time of my life, truly.
Wonderful.
And another thing I'll tell you, I went alone. And when I reached Heathrow, from Heathrow I had to take a flight to another place, because Agatha Christie used to stay at the south coast of England. So there are no flights to Devon. So I had to take a flight to some other place, then from there take a cab and things like that. So I was thinking maybe there's some kind of racism and this and that and all. So I got down on Heathrow, and I had to take another tube. I had to take the tube and this. So I got down, and it's very confusing. You go from which place and all. And I met so many helpful people. Everybody was kind of willing to help me. I met some guy, some police person, white police person. He says, yeah, I'll escort you. He took me from where I had to board the train, and I had to take the ticket. And initially you're kind of, you're confused from where do I buy the tickets, how do I buy it and stuff like that. He helped me buy it, and then when I reached Devon, everywhere people were so nice, so kind, so helpful, even in Devon, and my session went off so good. And people lined up, I had taken some copies, people lined up to buy the books, and they took my interview, I gave the talk, how Agatha Christie has influenced crime fiction in India. Okay. So that was my talk. And strangely enough, Agatha Christie's first murder mystery novel is based on a real murder which took place in Mussoorie, in Savoy Hotel.
My God.
So I did a lot of research on Agatha Christie's India influence and put that in my talk and stuff, I gave that talk. So it was truly one of the best experiences of my life. I'll always cherish it. And then I met her grandson, shook hands with him. It was like, Agatha Christie's blood, I sat on her bed, I sat on her table and chair with her typewriter, and went to her summer home, and where in the summer home there is this pier where one of the murders is based. Went there, and I mean, it was fantastic. I do not have words. You will need a separate interview for me to explain the entire experience. It was so good.
Wonderful. I mean, for you, though, it must have been like a dream come true. बचपन में जब आपने ये book पढ़ी होगी, I don't think you would have thought कि you're going to go to this place to see
Okay,
how it is.
I'll tell you a secret.
Or did you manifest this also?
I didn't. I'll tell you a secret. So I was 11 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I used to think, wow, I mean, I used to look at the cover, the back cover, and look at the picture of Agatha Christie. And I used to marvel, who is this lady? I mean, wow, what has she written? Things like that. And then when I decided to change tracks in my career and start writing, and then I thought to write crime, and I used to secretly think, can I write like Agatha Christie? Can I be the Agatha Christie of India? And like that secret, I mean, wild fantasy in my brain. And then lo and behold, when this novel was published, first I wrote A Degree in Death, again a closed, cozy mystery, and then this was published. And there was a very respected journalist in Dehradun. His name was Raj Dhar. Raj, yeah. So he reviewed my novel and he gave the heading, Agatha Christie of India, Ruby Gupta. Can you imagine?
Can't believe
Can
this.
you imagine? And it came in the New India Express. The review came in Indian Express and in another newspaper. And all that came and I was blown away. I was like, what? And he had put my interviewed and reviewed my novel and all. And after that, when I went there and came back, he called me up. He said, I told you, you are the Agatha Christie, that's why you went there. I said, yeah, thanks to you, I went there.
Wonderful. Seriously.
So can you imagine? And I never, in my wildest, I mean, it's like a fantasy being invited over there as the international writer in residence. I could never even have, it never came to me because truth be told, I didn't know that there is something like this.
Something like that.
So I didn't consciously manifest it, but somehow it just happened. I don't know how.
So that means we need to be very, very clear in our thoughts of what we are asking from the universe and always be positive of what you're talking about and thinking of. That is what you're letting us all know.
True.
Wonderful. And most important, most important, 100% into what you're doing. That I can see in your work.
Yeah. Because I have studied a lot about manifestation. And if I tell you how manifestation works, number one, clarity. Secondly, work. And thirdly, emotion. These three things have to be equal. Clarity of what you want, working for what you want, and emotion that I have it. I am it.
Yeah.
You be it, whatever you want. So it's a combination of these three things. Some people think, oh, you just sit and think. No, you got to work. And then you got to be happy. The feeling that you'll have once you get it, you live that feeling from the beginning. Only then it happens. So this is how, and it works. 100%.
Sure. For me also, I must say that when I read about you, came to know about you, I so very much wanted to interview you and talk to you. It worked. Thanks to you. Probably your thought of sisterhood has worked.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I am very much into sisterhood, and since I teach in IMA in only male cadets, I make it a point to have a conversation about patriarchy.
Wonderful.
And gender sensitization. I feel if in a class of 35-45 cadets, even if 10% of them could be gender sensitized, then we will bring about a change. Because this is an issue which is close to my heart. And when I used to teach engineering students, I had girl students. I was very keen for these girls to be confident enough to be, I would say, assertive in the corporate workplace and
Correct.
not be diffident. So this is, and I always feel that we women should stand by each other.
Very true.
I'm very, very passionate about that. So I had to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, you're talking about IMA. And when you talk about IMA, I wonder, as you said, your first novel was related to the IMA. And Agatha Christie wrote on in Masuri Savoy. So all of this coming together, How is it when you're dealing with the IMA cadets? Are you at that time completely into teaching, or you're thinking, oh, यहाँ से एक plot निकल के आ रहा है?
No, actually, I never think of my plot while I'm doing something else.
Okay.
It's only when I sit down to write that certain fragments come to me and I think, okay, I can write something related to that. So when I'm teaching my cadets, I'm completely into them, into what I'm teaching. So I don't have a fragmented thought that, okay, maybe something related. Although my cadets have been telling me I have completed 10 years in IMA. And my cadets keep telling me, ma'am, write a love story. We'll tell you our love story and this and that. So I indulge them sometimes and listen to their love stories. But my thing is, love story, boy meets girl, then how do I take it to 300 pages? I got to kill off somebody in between.
Naturally, वो आता है. Oh, wonderful. So IMA में, how hectic is your schedule? Like, how do you go about by the day?
Yeah, so I go in the morning for my classes. So I have regular timings over there from morning 8 till 2:30. And we take our classes. In addition to classes, I have certain administrative duties. I'm generally the presiding officer for many boards because I'm the senior most person over there in the ACC wing. So various boards I have to take care of, various other things. And there's examination, evaluation, whole lot of things. So we are kind of busy doing something or the other. So it's a busy time. Then we have debates, quizzes, those kind of things also.
Okay.
So sometimes if I'm judging the debate, I go in the evening as well.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you have your scheduled time wherein you tell everyone in the house, nobody is going to disturb me. This is my writing time. Here is my table and my chair. Now no one will disturb.
No.
Is it like that?
No, not at all.
No. Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
I am seeing carpenter aa raha hai, beech mein jaake carpenter, then I'll sit on my laptop, then I'll see plumber, then I'll see sabji aa gaya, you know, doodh ubal gaya. I don't have any me time. Only thing is when I'm towards the end of finishing my book. That's why you'll be surprised to know my first novel was Maya. It was based on spirituality because spirituality was my first interest in life.
Okay.
Since I was in class 10, I wanted to understand the meaning of life, why we are born, is there any purpose to human life. So Maya took me 10 years to write and 2 years to publish.
And that became your spiritual journey by itself.
Yes, because I took Diksha.
Okay.
I took several Dikshas, I practiced Kriya Yoga. So all those aspects have gone into Maya. So I take many years to write precisely because of this, because I have to do so many other things. And I do intense research in writing a book. I just don't sit and write from the top of my head. I'll do proper research, get proper facts, study, you know, things related to that area, pick up books, go to libraries. Like for Maya, I interviewed so many Swamijis. I live next to the Ramakrishna Ashram. So took Diksha, you know, even went to Mount Abu for the, what is it called? Brahmakumari things and all. So I do a lot of research and then I write my books. And so it takes a long time. So I write in between, little bit I'll write in my workplace, carry it home. Earlier when I didn't have a laptop, I used to mail it to myself. Then at home, download it and then continue from there. And then generally, when I reach the end of, when I'm nearing the end, like fastest I've written is it took me 3 years.
Okay.
Degree in Death, that's the fastest.
Okay.
So this is for the new generation, children, that, you know, 3 to 10 years is my time period for writing one novel, fiction. My technical books I wrote fast because non-fiction is easier for me to write. So it takes me a long time. But yes, when I'm nearing the end, I forget to eat, I forget to sleep. Sometimes I'm working on it, let's say I'm free that day. Like now, fortunately, my daughter is working, so I'm not ki doodh pee lo and kind of thing. So, so then I sit down to write and then the room turns dark. I realize it has become evening, late evening. Then I switch on the light. Then I realize I've not eaten anything. Then I'll go and get something and eat. And sometimes I won't sleep. And so it's all at my cost.
Okay. Right. And Dr. Ruby, another thing, as a novelist, do you think YouTube can be utilized to tell your story? Are you able to make use of it?
Actually, it can, but unfortunately, I do not have the bandwidth to do it.
Okay.
I did think that maybe I could, you know, tell some of my. I have written short stories as well, so I started off writing short stories. So I think YouTube is a very good platform, and I wish someone like you can help me to utilize it. Maybe one day I will utilize
Yeah,
it because
yeah.
it's very good. I myself listen to a lot of audiobooks on YouTube.
Right.
So I think it's a very good platform, and now is the era for audiobooks because
Correct.
people don't have time. So while driving, while doing something else, you can listen to audiobooks.
to the books.
So I am in fact very keen to convert my books also into audiobooks.
Okay.
And I'm also thinking that my books into Hindi in audiobooks. So I was telling my daughter that I can say, वो वहाँ गया था फिर अचानक. So my daughter said, हाँ ये बहुत interesting लग रहा है, मैं तो सुनूंगी.
हाँ,
So
वाकई में.
I maybe one day I shall do it.
Wonderful. Right. And also, we see a lot of AI inspired things happening in
Yes.
today's time.
Yes.
So, do you think AI can represent graphically what a writer is wanting to create through words?
Yes, I believe it can, and it can get images which are not copyright protected also. It can be done. I have dabbled a bit in AI. I'm looking into Gemini and ChatGPT and all. What I've realized is that if you give it the right prompts, it does come up with certain text,
Okay.
but ultimately it is not that creative. But a lot of people are taking the help of Gemini. One of my former students, BTech students, I hope you won't mind me sharing this, but he's writing a novel, he's written another book, and he was telling me that he takes the help of AI and he gives it the prompt and it comes up with a nice chapter, the entire
Okay.
chapter written. And he was
Oh.
telling me, ma'am, with your experience, you should be writing one book in 1 week.
Oh,
I was
God.
like, okay.
But then, do you think ChatGPT will be able to do justice to your thoughts,
No.
your emotions,
No.
your kind of words that you want to bring?
And it becomes repetitive. It writes the same kind of things all the
Yes.
time. So it cannot, it doesn't give you original, like I said, it doesn't
Yes.
give you original thought, but if you give it certain prompts, it can give you a couple of paragraphs.
But
well
then,
written
then
paragraphs.
if people think that they can become writers like this, then this
No.
is a very wrong
No, they
approach,
can't.
I feel.
But you know, we are headed in the wrong direction because these AI companies, what they are doing is they are giving these ChatGPT and other models, language models, they are giving entire books. So the AI is assimilating all these books, and now it has a database of so many writers and so many books, and you tell it to write something in that style. Who knows what is going to happen 3 years down the line?
But don't you think this is a very, I mean, I personally feel it's a very sad situation.
Yes.
Because, you know, creativity is, where are we heading for? I mean, that creative thought, kai baar hota hai, you want to write a particular word and you're looking for it, you know. Your brain is working all the time thinking about it. And at times you have to think about a plot. But if you have something like AI assistants like this, wherein things are being served on a platter, as it is today's generation, is that 10 minutes service delivery. So, do you think they can be good writers thereafter?
You know, the humankind as a whole, they are allowing their brains to rot. We started with the fact that we can no longer remember phone numbers.
Very true.
Okay, so we started from there, and today we don't need to do simple multiplication, addition. We can't do it because we have on our phone. And then we are coming to writing. Research papers are written with the help of ChatGPT and all. And now there is an app which will also help you to avoid plagiarism checking. So it will do a plagiarism check for you and change things so that it seems like an original work. So we've come to that. So we are making our future generations mentally handicapped. Their abilities are shrinking, and we are making it shrink because the human system is engineered in such a way that it takes the easy way out. You know, least use of energy. That is an optimum system. You use the least amount of energy. So the human system thinks that, okay, I got to use least amount of energy. If I have something ready-made, why should I work? And so we are raising a huge, an entire generation to conserve their brain power by not using it.
Correct.
Not understanding that the human system is such, the biological system is such that you use it or lose it. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Absolutely.
So a lot of faculties in the brain are getting smaller and we are regressing. And that is an actual fact. Imagination, we don't have it because we watch. That's what we were discussing downstairs with the director, and he said that he thinks visual medium, no. When you read, Reading is something which helps you to develop your imagination, because you build a world in your mind according to your own experiences, your own background from where you come. I will build it differently, you will build it differently.
Absolutely.
And this is where diversity comes in, where
Correct.
people come up with new ideas. So reading is very important. You learn language, you learn interpersonal skills, you learn human behavior. But there on a TikTok video, you see this and that, everything surface, everything which is shallow.
Very true.
Where are we headed? It's a matter of great concern.
That is what I wonder. And because we are sitting in this library, this thought is coming to me again and again.
No,
And
children don't want to read. They want to take the easy way out. No?
Correct. Very true. And because, Doctor, you have written in fiction and non-fiction both. So fiction gives you freedom. And non-fiction somewhere tells you that this is the area where you can work on. What is your style? What do you prefer?
Well, my aim, first of all, in writing is to make whatever I write reader friendly. So in non-fiction, my endeavor is that I take complex things and I make it in such a way that it becomes very easy for the reader to understand. So that's my aim. So that is where my creativity comes in, because anybody can write that book, but can they write it in such a simple and lucid manner in which way I can write it? So there is the creative aspect. That is my way of looking at non-fiction. So certainly non-fiction, the content is there. Anybody can use the content and write it, but how you present it, over there you have the latitude.
Correct.
That is the thing. And even fiction, I remember I was in a program and there was this professor, and the professor said, oh, but you can't write any original murder mystery. All murder mysteries have been written.
Oh.
And I said, no, why? Murder mystery can be different in the characters, in the way it happens, in the theme and the setting. It can certainly be different. Why do you say? She said, no, there are only 4 types of murder mysteries and nothing new can ever be written. So people have this sort of mindset.
Compartmentalize
yes,
the things,
but I
yeah.
think you can bring originality in anything. Otherwise, in music, there's only Saregama.
Yeah.
And how do you have millions of songs? If somebody can sing, oh, सात ही सुर होते हैं.
हाँ.
It's like that.
सात सुरों के साथ खेला जाता है, बस वैसे ही.
Exactly. वैसे ही. In non-fiction also, you can look at it in a different way. It's
Right.
how you look at something.
Wonderful. I like this. Yes. And also, when I've gone through your work, I was reading, you've talked about Sir Khushwant Singh. He was a very, very private person. I remember outside his home, there was a board which talked about timings and which talked about if you are supposed to be here, then only ring the bell, kind of a stuff. How could you meet him, write about him, talk about him? How was your interaction?
So that's very interesting. What happened was that I was working on the works of Khushwant Singh, and Khushwant Singh is regarded as a frivolous kind
Yes.
of he consciously built that persona of being a frivolous person, but his train to Pakistan,
Yes.
it won so many awards, and that is an excellent book. And he wrote in the encyclopedia about the history of the Sikhs. That required intense research, and his short stories. So I did a critical analysis of his fictional works as well as non-fictional works.
Okay.
And I took time from him. I took time, and then I went and interviewed him. And that same door I went in, of course I was expected, and he had this particular chair, easy chair, on which he used to recline and sit, and I would sit in a sofa facing him, and then there was the dining room and the kitchen, and he offered me a cup of tea and we spoke and all. And I said, I'm doing a criticism. He said, by all means do a criticism. And I met him 2-3 times, took his interview, had some pictures and all. And after I finished the criticism, and in that very clearly I've written that the worthwhile books that he has written are these, Train to Pakistan and History of the Sikhs. And I didn't like this Nightingale, one book related to, I'm forgetting the name. I Shall Not Cry, something related to Nightingale was the title.
Yeah, I'm not remembering.
Yeah. So I criticized it heavily. Even
Okay.
Delhi I criticized heavily. And I mean, some portions were okay about the novel Delhi, and some portions I found them very crude. Crude and
He
language
was like
it just,
that,
I
yeah.
got, my sensibilities were put off by the kind of language in Delhi. I didn't like it at all. And I sent that book to him after it was published. It was published by Classical Publishing Company, and it is now a book which research students use it as a reference book. And he was very happy, and he wrote to me, and he used to write, I've had his letters, he used to write with hand, postcards and all things. And I'll tell you a very interesting thing. When I thought to become a writer, and I didn't know whether I can be a writer, whether my writing is worth it. So I sent him my first one short story. And I asked him that, can you critique it for me? Can you tell me whether I can be a writer or not? Because it was after that I thought of being a creative writer.
Okay.
And he was so nice, a 2-page analysis of the story he sent me in writing. That this, I think it is good, this is good, and this is what the story is, like that he said. And he said, certainly try it. And then when I wrote my first novel, and I used to write to him that I'm getting offers from publishers for self-publishing, that you pay and all, and I don't know what to do. I spent 10 years writing it. 1 year had gone by, 10 plus 1, 11 years, and I couldn't get a publisher. And I was like, what should I do? And he said, no, you hang in there, don't go for self-publishing, you wait. And finally, I got a publisher based in Kathmandu, Pilgrims Publishing. And they were ready to publish it because they used to publish spiritual books. And then I wrote to Khushwant Singh that I waited, I got a traditional publisher. So he was so supportive.
Wonderful.
Can you imagine somebody of his stature supporting somebody who is sitting in a corner? So he was so generous.
And I must tell you, you're modest.
Really?
Yes. you keep make things so easy, लगता है जैसे अच्छा, but for 10 years का work
Yes.
जो होता है to pull yourself through that.
Yes.
That is amazing.
I'll tell you, sometimes it happened that, I wrote it and I thought when my first novel, because writing a novel is a huge thing. Short story, few pages you've written it, but a novel is a humongous task and you have to sit with it for so many years. One time what I did, I took all the chapters that I had written, and in my computer I made a file called Dustbin. I put all the chapters in that folder called Dustbin.
Oh God.
Then after 6 months, I would kind of pep myself up and, take it out and think, ki, acha, isko I can salvage it. And start working it all over again. Even for my PhD, when I was doing my PhD, one time I was in my daughter was very small, and I was like, I can't do it. Can you believe, in the night, 3 a.m., I took all my pages that I had written. At that time, I just had the computer, which was a basic computer, and the printout, and I just went and put it in the lawn outside. That subah na wo kachre mein chale jayega. Don't do the PhD.
Oh,
it's that kind of, because it's so intense, so much of work you have to do, and at times it just gets to you and you feel you cannot do it. And in my times, we used to do the actual research, going to library.
Yes,
we didn't have, there was no
books
Google,
and
there was no internet that you can just get the data, research
Correct.
from here. So from a book, you take out something, write it here, then write something there, then primary source, secondary source, my God. And I remember 3 a.m., that entire, all those files, I just went and put it. Then subah after brushing, I went out and picked it up and brought it.
Oh my God. And what was your topic of research?
It was Indian English literature.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's not all fun and games.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So, to the Agatha Christie of India, what do I say? Keep writing and please keep motivating people to write. I feel that is very important in today's age and time. And besides that, I need to just thank you, and from the bottom of my heart, really, it has been a pleasure. And I think we can thank Manav Bharti, director, also for giving us this place today for this interview. And not an interview, this was a talk which I really enjoyed with you, Dr. Ruby Gupta. It was really wonderful. I think there are so many more questions that are right now building up in my mind, for which maybe I'll trouble you again if you permit and your time permits.
No, it was an absolute pleasure being here, and I didn't feel like a toy. I mean, I was just chatting with you. It was a really nice chat, and I think you brought out things which I have not told anybody.
Okay.
So maybe we should edit it. So it was my pleasure being here, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thanks to the director of Manav Bharti School.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this library, and I hope many students in this school will be inspired with this library and to
Correct.
write and read, because that is needed.
And very soon your books will be here too.
I hope so.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to the camera person.
Yes, Sarthak.
It was such a pleasure of having this candid and free-flowing conversation with Dr. Ruby, and it felt like we've known each other for ages. Her sisterhood and guidance will surely stay with me whenever needed. I'm sure you all have equally enjoyed and appreciated the time and patience that goes into being an author, especially in the crime fiction genre. Tomorrow, May 9th, is her birthday, often called the Agatha Christie of India. Wishing her many more accolades and the joy of penning many more crime mystery novels that keep us engaged and guessing. Jai Hind.